This is the outcome of my work. I absolutely love it. I'm not going to lie to you about that. So if you want to learn how I made it, definitely keep on watching. I already have my shoulder line drawn out, so on that point I'm going to place my tape. Then I'll measure my shoulder to my bust point, which is 9.5. Then I'll take my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 12.5, and then the half length of my shirt is going to be 17 plus 1 inch allowance, which is 18. Now I want you to keep in mind that the front length and the back length is not the same thing. We are going to be taking the measurement separately because of the side dart. On the shoulder line, I will mark my shoulder length divided by 2, which mine is 7. On that same point, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'm going to come in at the center front by 3 inches for my neck width. From that point, I'm going to use my ruler to connect it to the shoulder slope point, and this is going to be my shoulder slope. On the center front again, I'm going to come down by 3 inches for my neck depth. This is the basic neck measurement, 3 by 3. With my curve, I'm going to connect the points together to give me my neck curve. The next thing for us to do now is to get our armhole length, and you know it's our bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. After getting that, I'm going to roll a straight line at that point, and that's going to be our chest line. I'm going to go ahead and label the other lines that I have. I'm going to roll a line starting from my shoulder slope all the way to my armhole length. Divide your armhole length by 2. Mine is 7, so divided by 2 will give me 3.5, and then on that point I'm going to go in by half of an inch, and then with my curve I'm going to connect it into the chest line like at this. The center front, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement on my waistline, my under bust line, and my bust line. I'll connect those points with my ruler. Measure what you have on your shoulder, and you're going to divide it into 2. What I have was 4 divided into 2 will give me 2, so I'm just going to connect that point into the bust line where the nipple to nipple measurement is. Now I'm just highlighting what I have at the top. The next step is our under bust tightening. On our nipple to nipple line, you are going to give half inch to the part going towards the center front. You are going to place that half inch on the waistline and on the under bust line. On the other side, going towards the side, you are going to give 1 inch. But if you are a busty person, you can use 1.2 or 1.5. So now I'm going to connect the points together. On my bust line, I'll go down by 1 inch, or you can use half inch, but I used half inch. It all depends on how busty you are. If you are busty, use 1 inch, but I'm not busty, so I decided to use half inch. So I'm going to connect from that point to the dart legs I have on the under bust line. For the sweetheart curve, I'm going to go up by 1.5. If you choose, you can decide to go up by 1 or 2, but I decided to go up by 1.5 because I don't want it to be too open. At the midpoint of the shoulder, you are just going to connect a straight line down to meet that 1.5 you went up by on the chest line. And after you are doing that, I just measured again to make sure that I have it correctly. So I'm going to take my curve and then I will curve it into the chest line or a little bit into the bust line. You get, it depends on how opened or how sweet art you want it to be. So I just curved mine to just stop exactly on the chest line. You can decide to bring it down a little bit, but I'm okay with what I have. The next thing for us to do is to get our upper bust tightening. On that division line that I went down by on the shoulder line, I'm going to go out on that point on both sides by 1/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to use my ruler to connect it into the bust line. Just follow what you see me do on the screen and you're going to come out with something perfect. So those points, I'm going to cut them off. They're not part of my dress. Now it's time for me to impute my body round circumference measurement, my bust round circumference measurement divided by 4. I'm going to place it on my bust line. Then my waist measurement divided by 4. I'm going to place it on my waistline. And remember to always replace your dart intakes. No matter how little it is, make sure you replace it back. I replaced the little that I have on my chest line. I measured it, so I replaced it back on my chest line, and after that I connect the point I have with my curve. Now I'm going to be marking my side dart. On my bust line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. I'll connect from that point to meet that point on the bust line. I really don't know what that point is called. The presence of the side dart helps give the bustier a very nice fitting. It gives it a very lovely fitting. On the bust line, you are going to use your scissors to open it up to that point, and that line we use to divide the shoulder into two, you are going to use your scissors to cut it open to meet that point again. You are not going to cut it off. We just want to be able to move the top part around so that we'll be able to cover the side dart. So you see now that it's covered, if you have any, maybe it's no longer aligning at the side like mine, just blend it in with your curve or with your marker. So now I'm going to cut. Just watch closely as I'm cutting so that you would not make any mistake while cutting your own. If you've watched this video to this extent, I just want to plead with you to please like this video. Even if you don't want to subscribe, that like is very important, and if you still consider joining the family, please subscribe. For the back pattern, the drafting is the same thing with just a little difference. The length of the front is longer than the length of the back. The length of my front is 17 inches while the length of my back is 16 inches, and we all know why. It's because of the presence of the side dart. Once we remove that side dart from the front is now going to be equal with the back, okay? So that is why when you measure your front and your back, the difference between the front measurement and the back measurement is what you are going to use for your side dart. Now get your nipple to nipple measurements, but this time your nipple to nipple measurement is going to extend to the chest line. So just mark a straight line there. On the waistline, you are going to go out on each side by half of an inch, and you are going to connect it to meet the tip of the chest line, just the way you see me doing on the screen. So after that, you are going to impute our body measurement and make sure you replace your dart. After that, I'm going to use my curve to connect the points that I just marked. So I'll bring in my front piece and then I'll place the shoulders on the back piece. I'm doing this so that I'll be able to get exactly the front shoulder length on the back shoulder. So after that, I'm going to use my curve to connect it to the chest line. And after that, I'm just going to mark a slant curve into the center back. And please don't forget to give your zipper allowance. I gave my own zipper allowance while I was cutting on my fabric, so make sure you give a zipper allowance. So I'm just doing this to make sure that I get it exactly, and now I'm highlighting the point with my marker right now. So after doing this, just go ahead and cut. You can give your back any shape that you want, but this is what I want, so just go ahead and cut. Just reminding you again to kindly please like and subscribe. So these are all the pieces for the back and the front. So I've already gone ahead to cut them on my fabric already, and I made sure I gave sufficient allowance. My zipper allowance is 1.5. The allowance I gave at the side is 1.5 as well. Then at the bottom I gave 1 inch. At the neckline, armhole and shoulder, I gave ½ inch to those points. I'm going to take my center front and my side front. I'm going to align them together like this. This is how they are going to be. So the next thing for me to do now is that I'm going to place them right side facing each other. I'll take them to the sewing machine and sew. So this is what it looks like when I was done. You can decide to add stay to it to make it thicker. For the back piece, take the main fabric and the lining, place them right sides facing each other, and after doing that, you are going to take it to the sewing machine and sew through the neckline and the side. Okay, you are going to sew through the neckline and the side, leaving the armhole and the under and the shoulder opened. So I'm still going to do the same thing for my front piece. Place the lining and the main fabric right sides facing each other. You are going to sew through the armhole. You are going to leave the shoulder opened. Sew through the neckline. Sew the armhole, the side and the neckline, leaving the shoulder and the bottom opened. So after sewing, make sure you trim or you just make a snip, and after that you are just going to iron it out. So this is what mine is looking like. If you want, you can decide to put cup, but I'm okay with the way mine is. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to align the back and the front right sides facing each other. Watch closely what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take the back piece and then I will sandwich the front piece inside the back piece. I'll take my pins and pin it down. I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'll sew a straight line. Place the front and the back right sides facing each other, and then you are going to sandwich the front piece in between the lining and the main fabric of the back piece. I hope you get me now, because this is the second time I'm explaining it. Take them over to the sewing machine and sew. When you are done sewing, this is what it's going to look like. So watch closely what I'm going to do, okay? We are still going to take it back to the original position. I just came to show you what you are going to have so that you will not be like, am I doing it wrong or am I doing it right? Take it back to the original position when you are already done sewing the shoulder, and then you are going to sew through the armhole. Okay, you see I'm just pinning it down. You're going to sew through the armhole, okay, and the side as well. The armhole and the side. Not to worry, when you are practicalizing this, you are going to get it clearly. I just came back from church, 19th January. If you are seeing this today, happy Sunday to you. This was the outfit I wore to church today, and I loved it. So let's continue, shall we? So for the skirt part, I'm just going to draw my starting line. That's my waistline. I'm going to be cutting my front and my back together. How I got this measurement is you are going to divide your hip by 4 because it's the widest part of your body. Then you will add the allowance you intend to add to the side of the skirt, and for the back we are also going to add your 2 inches for your zipper allowance. So that's what I have right here. Now you are going to place your tape on your waistline and you are going to get your waist to your hip, which mine was 9 inches, and then I'll get the full length of my gown, of my skirt, plus 2 inches allowance. So I'm just going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. The 2 inches allowance we added to the bottom is for folding the bottom. Both the front and the back are folded into 2. Okay, the longest one, which is the back that has the zipper allowance, is also into 2. And you can see that the front, I did not open the side. Okay, that's because the front is not supposed to open. And that point, okay, I'm just measuring the 2 inches that I have as my zipper allowance. The next thing I'm going to do now is that I'm just going to mark straight line across the points that I already have. It's time for me to take my waist and my hip round circumference measurement, and to do this we are going to start exactly on the center front fold of the front. So of the way the material is, I'm just going to mark out, I'm just going to indicate where the zipper allowance is so that you will not get confused. So I'll place my tape on the center front fold on my waist, then I'll mark my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 3.5. On that same point, I'll go down by 5 inch, which is going to be the length of my dart, and then I'll connect a straight line to connect the point. On the waistline, I'm going to go out by half of an inch on both sides of the dart line, and then I'll connect to meet the end part of the dart. So that's what we are doing right here. So I'm just going to measure my waist measurement divided by 4. I will add the allowance, the dart allowance back. Then I'll also go ahead to add 2 inches for my joining allowance. I'm adding 2 inches because I'm going to use ½ inch to sew the lining in. On my hip, I'm going to take my hip round circumference divided by 4. I will also add the 2 inches. Then on the length, that is the M line, what you got on your hip, we are going to remove 1 inch from it. For instance, I got 9 on my hip. On my M line, I'm going to mark 8 inches so that it will not just be straight from the waist down, it would have a curve when it's going towards the bottom part. When I was done sewing mine, I had to make the adjustment on my machine, but you can make that correction while you are drafting on your main fabric. So I'm going to be cutting lining for it now. I cut it the same way I cut the main fabric. I cut them together because I don't just want stress. So the way you are going to do it, you are going to measure 2 inches away from the lining. You know that we gave 2 inches for the allowance. The same inch you gave as the allowance, you are going to measure it out from your lining. That is, your lining will be 2 inches shorter than your main fabric. If it's 1 inch that you gave, your lining should be 1 inch shorter than your main fabric. Do you get me? So when I'm done with that, I just went ahead to cut it open, and that is it for the lining fabric. So now we are going to be sewing them together. So this is my front piece. This is the top part of the front piece, okay, that is curved, and then this is the bottom part. So you are going to start by joining the fabric and the lining right sides facing each other at the bottom part. You are going to sew with 1/2 inch. Okay, I'm done sewing, and this is what we have. So what you are going to do is that you are now going to align them same way at the waist region and still sew with 1/2 inch. Now when you go to the under, you will see that the lining is folding the main fabric upward. Do the same thing for the back pieces. So I've gone ahead to join the top and the skirts together, and this is what it's looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to fix my zipper allowance. But before I fix my zipper allowance, or before I fix my zip, I'm going to pin the sides together so that they will be still. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'll bring in my zip, and I'm going to be stopping my zip somewhere here. That is where I am marking right now. That is where I'm going to be stopping my zip. And after that, I'll come in on that point by the allowance I gave for my zipper allowance, which is 1.5, since I've already used 1 inch, 1/2 inch to sew the lining fabric. So on the bottom, you measure how wide you want your opening at the bottom to be, and then that line, okay, is where that yellow line is where you are going to take over to the sewing machine to sew, and thereafter you attach your zip to it. So this is what it looks like when I was done. You know that I like using hemming gum to just fold in my edges, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use hemming gum to hold this in place. I feel like hemming gum is better for hiding your stitches, and it helps for a clean and a fine finish. So this is what we have when I was done. As you can see, it's looking so fine and neat. You don't even know what's going on in there. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, this is what we call shaping. That's where you measure your real body measurement on your fabric. Okay, so since my dress is now into 2 parts, I'm going to divide my round circumference measurement by 2, and then I'll just place the marks there. After that, I'll just connect the points I have. I did the same thing on my waist. My hip measurement divided by 2, I just marked it on my hip line, and then I connected them to give me my shape. So this is what we call shaping. I don't know if you do this, I don't know how you get yours, but this is how I get mine. So when you are done with this, that's basically it for the tutorial. Just go ahead and sew. After sewing, please subscribe and like. Thank you.